Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here. Time for another Patreon-sponsored Blind Reaction. And this one comes to you courtesy of Johnny Lee Largent, who has requested that I react to top 10 games that could make great anime by the Quarter Guy. So, yeah, interesting topic here. I mean, anime adaptations of video games, always something kind of interesting. They're usually... Well, it depends. I mean, they're rarely exceptional. Unless you're talking about anime adaptations of visual novels, which I think fare a lot better. Steins Gate, that's a pretty perfect anime, and that's based on a visual novel, and like Fate Unlimited, Blade Works, those tend to work pretty well, as long as they don't try and do too much. If they keep it measured and stick to the material pretty well, they tend to be pretty good. But I doubt that's what we're talking about here. I think we're probably going to be talking about more traditional games with a bit more gameplay to them. And not really so much the visual novels. And when it comes to that, I'd say it's kind of a mixed bag with how they turn out. I mean, I really like the Persona 4 anime. I think that's a pretty good adaptation. But I hear the Persona 5 one isn't as good, and I haven't seen it myself to verify, but that just goes to show that it depends. And sometimes anime adaptations just do not work at all. The BlazBlue anime, I love that series, and you would think it would work because there's a lot of story there, especially for a fighting game series, and a lot of colorful, cool characters. But I couldn't get past like the third episode of that. So yeah, it depends. And yeah, there are definitely a lot of games out there that you would think would make great anime, and yeah, I guess what would be on this list would, I think, vary from person to person pretty widely. And I don't even know what would be on my list. And I don't know the Quarter Guy, so I can't really guess what's going to be on his list either. But I'm definitely interested to find out and hear just what he has to say about the subject here. And yeah, I think this could be a pretty interesting one. So let's go ahead and get it started. And here we go.
Don't mess with me. I've got the power of God and anime on my side.
Okay.
And a Hado Blaster.
I guess that's all you need? Pretty cool intro music. Oh, and speaking of BlazBlue, we got some Ragna there. Top 10 games that could make great anime.
In 1963, Osamu Tezuka's Astro Boy made its debut
Yep.
as the first popular anime series.
Where it all started.
Since then, Japanese
JoJo?
animation has evolved to meet a wide variety of styles and tastes. And just like anime, video games have evolved over the years as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes without saying that there's been quite a bit of overlap. There's plenty of games based on anime,
Yeah.
oftentimes shonen anime, and their quality has varied quite a bit.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it's rare to find good anime based on games.
Kinda.
There are a couple that come to mind here. All the same, there's plenty of games that have potential to be good or even great anime. So here are 10 ideas among games I've played. The only criteria is how well I think the game can be adapted to anime and not the quality of the game itself.
Cool.
And if it's already been adapted to a major production, I'm not counting it. If it's just shorts, I'll let it slide. And there are plenty of games that I haven't played that also have anime potential. I'll mention some that my viewer suggested in the honorable mentions. Anyways, let's
Cool.
put Pixel to the ink. It's game time! In terms of adapting a game to anime, you have two major options as to how to go about it. You could either directly adapt or even expand upon the game's storyline, or you could create an entirely new story based in the game's world. This first game actually kind of takes a similar approach to its narrative. So, you guys like dragons, right?
Oh. Yeah, dragons are cool. Dragalia Lost. Never heard of it.
Now here's a game that I didn't think I'd be talking about. Yeah, I know, mobile game, but consider this
Okay,
kind of
mobile game.
diversification.
That's probably why.
Being the first original mobile IP under Nintendo's banner, Dragalia Lost had my curiosity when it was first announced. And I'm not ashamed to admit, I've been enjoying this game and its story.
Looks very anime.
High fantasy is a popular setting for anime aside from being the go-to aesthetic for most RPGs, so we've got a good fit right there. In terms of story, we've got the main plot in which young Prince Yuden and his jolly band of adventurers take on his treacherous siblings and an evil that's overtaken his kingdom. And we've had several events so far with side stories of their own. including a crossover with Fire Emblem Heroes that
Nice,
had a lot of
nice.
thought
Well, I mean,
into
it's
it.
Nintendo, so that makes
Hylia
sense.
Lost also has
Probably
potential
pretty
for
natural
exciting action
crossover
scenes,
there.
including the roles that the various dragons play in the game. Could you just imagine the kind of sequence a great animator could make?
Japan loves mobile games, so I honestly wouldn't be
Another reason
surprised
I
if
feel
this
Head of
did get an
Hercule
anime.
Is Mim.
Oh.
I love this.
Yeah, I'd like to see her animated too. That would be nice. Number 9.
Anime centered on music isn't exactly anything new. I've got friends that are huge fans of Love Live, K-On!,
Good stuff?
and other
Yes,
such
very good
things.
stuff.
So what do you suppose would happen if someone made an anime based on music with a dash of mystery, adventure, and style? Well, one thing that would happen is that I'd watch the crap out of it.
Oh. Rhythm Thief. Never heard of it
Is
again.
basically what would happen if Professor Layton hopped a flight to Rhythm Heaven with a layover in Paris. I found myself greatly enjoying the tale of art student Raphael, aka the dashing Phantom R, minus the gyroscope minigames.
Oh.
And a lot of that comes down to a couple things. One was the characters that were a part of this whimsical story. Phantom R himself, the doggedly persistent Inspector Vergier, the tough-acting Charlie, just to name a few. I also liked how well the narrative was conveyed. It had action, drama, mystery, and a few tender moments to boot. It also had its fair share of fantasy as well, so that's a plus.
Definitely looks
The star of
anime,
the show,
so
well, besides our styling leading man, was the music. From the dance numbers
Well,
to the chases
you would
and
hope
action
if it's a
songs,
rhythm game.
even the stylization of the mundane. The soundtrack in this game is definitely anime material. Songs like this could easily be the highlight of an anime episode. And why stop with just the one game that Sega released? With a character like Phantom R in a city like Paris, you could write all sorts of adventures for anime. I mean, the game did have anime cutscenes, so that's a good place to start.
yeah, the
Might even
moon.
bring in the audience that wasn't interested in idols.
But idols are great.
Fun fact, the NES
Rather have the
classic
idols.
Blaster Master had a vastly different plot than its Japanese counterpart, Sho Wakusei Senki Metafight.
Also a vastly different
In the
name.
US game, the boy Jason tumbles into the underground after chasing his mutated pet frog and finds the tank Sophia to fight the forces of the plutonium boss. In Metafight, Sophia is the name of the planet, the tank is called the Metal Attacker, and hero Kane Gardner fights against Overlord Goez and the Invem Darkstar Cluster. So when Inchi Creates and Sunsoft decided to reboot the franchise, they decided to take pieces from both stories to unify the plot into a cohesive whole.
Okay.
The result was a Switch launch title called Blaster Master Zero. The latest in a long line of retro revivals, Zero took an 8-bit aesthetic and chiptunes and added a narrative that was surprisingly good. In this story, Jason is a scientist in the field of robotics in a future following a second ice age caused by, what else, humans.
I will never forgive these humans!
Fred is a frog capable of producing wormholes, and our hero is
Okay.
played by a super cute android named
Yeah,
Eve.
pretty
The way
cute.
the story was conveyed would make for a solid 12-episode season, or at least an OVA that could possibly expand on the lore of the game. And hey, this game got a sequel this year that was stealth dropped on a direct, which introduced us to more characters, including a rather persistent rival for Jason. So there's your idea for a second season. I mean, the character art is pretty much anime already, so you've already got a starting point.
That seems to be a trend with all these so far.
Any Create seems to have a thing for creating awesome things from zero. Nintendo has a mixed record when it comes to introducing new franchises. Sometimes they get buried underneath their staple series, but on occasion you get a success. Splatoon is arguably one of their biggest additions to their stable in recent years. And not only has its unique twist on the third-person team-based shooter managed to capture the imagination of gamers, it actually has some interesting angles that an enterprising animation studio could take. So how
Yeah,
would one adapt?
it would
a
definitely
game
be
like
interesting
Splatoon
visually.
anime? The interesting thing here is that we have a few options. On the one hand, we could take the turf wars and the multiple variations from ranked play and use that as the basis for something like a sports anime. Goodness knows that underdogs rising up are an anime staple, not to mention the famous tournament arc trope. Then we have the story of the conflict between the Inklings and the Octarians, which is covered in the single-player campaigns of both games. Interestingly enough, this is also where a lot of the game's interesting and rather disturbing hidden lore is found by players who put the time into exploring the levels. Even the Octo expansion has an interesting story behind it, and it's actually surprisingly dark. Heck, an anime could actually cover all these bases in different arcs for a splash of color. Probably the biggest reason I could actually
Splash
see
of color.
Splatoon becoming an anime is because it already has something of a head start. There is an official Splatoon manga in publication since 2016,
Okay.
and so far it's covered all these areas, not to mention the Splatfests and even Salmon Run. So it's prime real estate for a capable studio. Hey, Any opportunity for more of the Squid Sisters music is fine by me.
Squid Sisters? Okay.
While anime itself comes from Japan, it has inspired the styles of many a Western series, such as Shaolin Showdown, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the Castlevania Netflix series.
Yeah.
The anime style has also inspired some Western-developed video games, so, you know, maybe the West could, well, repay the favor?
Oh. Yeah, I think a lot of people would like an anime of this.
That Western-developed franchises were out of consideration. Heck, I'm sure some of you have ideas of your own for anime based on American or European game series. Shantae was just the one I had in mind, given my personal connections to this series.
Looks nice.
Even putting those aside, though, the characters and situations that are littered throughout this series are pretty much anime to begin with. You've got Shantae herself as the spunky, determined protagonist, the gloriously hammy villain, Risky Boots.
Oh, wow.
Sky,
Everyone.
Solo, and good old Uncle Mimic.
Oh, okay.
So you've all
Not everyone.
got a good cast dynamic. Also, the kinds of stories we've had from the games thus far sort of lend themselves to an episodic format. I'm thinking something along the lines of action comedy with some slice-of-life elements thrown in. I mean, the structure of Half Genie Hero was something akin to a Saturday morning cartoon already, with each episode's story being separate from the main plot. And that's pretty much the kind of anime I think Shantae could lend itself to. Something relatively
looks like I'd like it
most of the time, but not afraid to get serious when it needs to. It's the kind of series that could give us action, humor, and drama in equal measures. In other words, give it the proper magic, and it could be a wish come true.
Wish come true. Yeah.
You know, One Piece has been going on for Arceus knows how long, and it's hard to believe that it's still going. In fact, it's the last of the big three manga that's still being written, with no end in sight. But that being said, there are plenty of other fish in the ocean. Or pirates in the skies, as it were.
I've heard about this game. Never played it
because it's been a long
because
time since I've talked about this old game.
didn't have a
Skies of
Dreamcast.
Arcadia is probably one of the best one-shots Sega's put out since the Dreamcast launch. Well, unless you count the GameCube remake. And it absolutely has the potential to make...
Well, I guess I don't have an excuse then, but...
When my roommate back in college introduced me to this game, I found myself drawn in by the swashbuckling adventures of the Blue Rogues as they fought to stay one step ahead of the evil Valoan Empire. The characters played a big part in this. The hero Vice growing from a cocky apprentice into a brave and daring leader, his spunky childhood friend Aika and their close relationship, the strong-willed and mysterious Fina, Drachma and his Moby Dick vendetta, the womanizing Gilder, the defiant Prince Enrique, each of them were characterized well for what they brought to the story. The world of Arcadia was also a joy to explore, whether sailing the skies in your pirate ship or journeying across the various islands. And let's not forget the action. The game's battles would make for excellent anime scene material, from the bounties to the Empire's troops, and dude, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how well the ship battles could be adapted to the drawing board. You could dedicate a whole episode to the Blue Rogues' battle against one of the Empire's best flagships. It would also probably be the closest we're ever going to get to a sequel, given Sega's business strategy of late.
Number 4.
Oh, Blaze Blue Alter Memory. Blaze Blue
Yeah.
Alter, let's try to cram the plot and lore of all games into 12 episodes memory. Seriously, the lore of Calamity Trigger and Continuum Shift would have probably required a full 24-episode season to do it justice. Each. But hey, if Hood's Entertainment have learned their lesson since then, maybe they could give it another shot. I mean, they have Blaze Blue's hard rock predecessor to work with, so let's go with that.
I mean...
Honestly, was anyone not expecting to see Guilty Gear on this list? Being the OG of anime-style fighters, this series has been kicking butt for over 20 years now, and its popularity has only grown in recent years since Exard came out. Not to mention, it's built up a ton
Never played
of lore
Guilty
in that
Gear.
time. Not only do we have the main story, which started off with the conflict between humanity and the magical-powered beings known as Gears and that man, and led to a struggle against the forces of the mysterious realm known as the Backyard, but there's plenty of other lore to talk about with the various motivations of the characters, plus spin-offs. But that's only one reason I could get behind a Guilty Gear anime. If you've seen high-level play in these games, you know how intense and flashy these fights can get. The potential for action scenes is absolutely ridiculous. Crazy moves, flashes of weapons, and those insane finishers. But probably the biggest advantage that Guilty Gear has as a franchise is that its soundtrack is as metal as the entire Maverick Hunter squadron. Daisuke Ishiwatari thrives on the music he's written for this franchise, and to hear it accompany fight scenes in an anime would rock as hard as fighting game bosses on max difficulty. Just, whoever decides to do this, don't cut corners. Leave the cutting to the swords, okay?
Yeah.
Remember that old Nintendo video service on the 3DS? Yeah, I thought not. Around the time that Kid Icarus Uprising was getting ready for release, Nintendo released a few animated shorts to hype up the game. And looking back on it now, it's got me thinking. They ought to go all the way with this!
Huh?
I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who sees monster potential in making an anime based on this franchise. Not just based on the anime shorts, but Uprising itself. It's got plenty of action, great set pieces inspired by Greek mythology, awesome battles between Pit and the Underworld Army, and a soundtrack that covers a wide variety of genres and moods. But probably the biggest thing that gives Kid Icarus potential as an anime is how well the stories are presented through its characters and world. Honestly, one of the best parts of Kid Icarus Uprising is its writing. Nearly all of the characters in the game are over-the-top, well-written, and just a joy to listen to, and the witty banter between these Grecian goofballs was a highlight of the levels. Pit's exuberance, go-forward attitude, and the way he reacted to pretty much everything, Palutena being the benevolent and kind mother figure with a devious sense of humor, Magnus being basically a badass, Buriti being a
Yeah, I mean,
tsundere,
that's...
Dark Pit
Oh.
being a complete edgelord,
Gotta have
and
tsundere.
Hades. Just Hades. This magnificent bastard stole pretty much every single scene he was in, with his glorious ham factor and his himself-make-hair attitude towards causing chaos and mayhem. The game itself even sets itself up like something of an anime, with chapters divided into concise story arcs. But like I've said, you don't even need to restrict it to the games themselves. I could see a good studio going above and beyond to create intense, funny, and dramatic adventures within this game's world. Dare I say, it could be a titanic success.
Number 2.
I know it might sound stupid for someone my age to be bringing up the magical girl genre, but I'd be lying if I said that the genre didn't have
I mean, not necessarily.
Sailor Moon is famous among fans
Just
of the genre.
talk about
Madoka
Madoka.
must be doing something right
Madoka.
if it's still going on. And Madoka...
There we go. There we go. Oh, don't spoil it.
Okay, that's as far as I'm going down that path. Don't want to get demonetized. Point I'm trying to make is that the idea of cute girls fighting evil has to appeal to certain audiences, and Arcana Heart fits right in that wheelhouse. In fact, the franchise is pretty much a magical girl fighting game.
Yeah.
with summoning spirits instead of
Something I
transformation sequences.
probably should have
If
played,
it weren't for the
but
fact
I
that
haven't.
the series is so darn obscure, I
Yeah,
would have thought
that's
this
probably
series
why.
would honestly have a chance of being adapted.
Seriously, they dropped 6 stars from CEO Taku because no one was playing it. But I digress. Here's the thing.
Arcana Heart has a wide cast of cute characters with generally likable personalities and their own Arcana partners to boot. You got characters like the bubbly and energetic Heart, the breezy and fun-loving Lilica, the professional yet caring Xenia, and the stoic Kamui, just to name a few. Aside from the personalities of these girls, it's the interactions between them that could make for some moments that fit all kinds of moods, from funny to dramatic to downright
Weiss.
heartbreaking.
There's the Weiss.
Not to mention the way
Okay.
that the game's fights are played, with the heroines combining their powers with their Arcana partners, could make for some absolutely beautiful fight scenes. Not merely against one another, but against whatever evil forces threatening the world at the time. That's the sort of thing I'm looking for in anime potential. Not simply restricted to the story of the games themselves, but the world in which they take place. And that's honestly where the best potential lies in an Arcana Heart anime. Give us some well-written character arcs, some original adventures, and some dazzling fights, and you bet your last credit I'd watch that.
Yeah.
Besides,
I would
Arcana
too,
Heart
probably.
is probably the closest we're ever gonna get to a Love Live fighting game.
Oh.
So,
That would be awesome.
Let's take a look at
Love
some
Live
other
fighting game?
games. First,
Definitely.
Under Night in Birth, Xenoblade Chronicles, any of them really, The Wonderful 101, Onimusha, and Custom Robo. And
Huh?
now for some picks that my viewers submitted. Jack and Daxter, Valkyria Chronicles. The
Well, they did that. They
and
did that.
Trauma Center.
Are people unaware that they did that?
Patron pick
There was a
is
full anime
100%
series.
Wonderful patron Michael Boyd.
It's like a 26
Remember,
series,
if you wanna
episode
become a
series.
Patron pick, become a platinum patron or higher today. Link is in the description below. Take it away,
Has
Michael.
that faded from memory
I
so
think
far
the
that people
series, due to
don't
its
even know?
storytelling, its interesting characters and plots, not to mention its great fighting system, and all the crazy shenanigans you can get into it.
That's just weird. That viewers would suggest that.
I would definitely
Oh.
watch an anime based on any of the games on this list, but if I had the time and money, I'd fly out to Japan and shout this out from the middle of the Shibuya crossing. I want to see an anime adaptation of The World Ends With You.
Okay.
The story, the characters,
Again,
the
never
flash of
played
the
it.
battles, they are all the ingredients for a stellar anime. And this cult classic deserves to
Definitely
get
an
more
interesting
attention by
art
whatever
style.
means it can get it. For one thing, the surreal side of this reimagined Shibuya is delightfully weird in the best way possible. The noise make bizarre enemies, and the abilities our heroes use to team up against them would make for some of the flashiest and craziest battles that the medium could produce, at least in the hands of a capable studio. Not to mention, this game's soundtrack freaking slaps. Twister, Calling, Transformation. These tracks do such a great job highlighting the situations in which these songs play. And hearing these in an anime would be 100% sick. But the biggest reason I would watch an anime based on The World Ends With You is because of the elements of the story. The Days of the Reapers game are already laid out in an episodic format to begin with each day taking up the equivalent of 1 or 2 episodes in an anime, and these days are jam-packed with very little in the way of filler. But it's the characters that really make this game prime anime material. The stories behind the players of the Reapers game, like Shiki's backstory, the brother-sister dynamic between Beat and Rhyme, the mystery behind Joshua, the Reapers themselves, and most of all, Neku himself. Neku's character arc is one of the best I've seen in all my days playing video games. How the game forces him to develop from an antisocial loner at the beginning of the story to someone who learns to trust others and actually is able to make friends by the end of it all is the best part of the whole story. And to see it adapted to the anime screen would be amazing. Seriously, The World Ends With You is a game with all the pieces of a great anime. All we need is a studio capable of putting them together. And don't worry, they'd have more than 7 days to do it.
I'm the quarter guy, and one of these days I gotta find some time to watch more anime. Of course, when you've got a 9-to-5 job and you're doing this on the side, you don't have as much time as other people do. That's when you gotta be selective. Guess I'll just watch more JoJo's.
Can't go wrong with that.
So I jump in on the CPU one too many times, try to go in with a raw super, used the rage explosion in round 1, got overly aggressive when my opponent just kept blocking, forgot to block high when the opponent jumped in, turtle against a grab happy opponent, and whiffed on a hard slash when a medium would have been safer. Guess I'll embrace death. Next time, Arcade Retrospectives, Samurai Showdown.
Huh?
It's game time!
Well, thank the patrons. And there we go. So, yeah, I think that was a list of 10 games where I had played none of them, right? So that was interesting. I mean, there's stuff that I kind of want to play, like the Shantae. That looks really good to me. Yeah, I'm just going through it again. I never played any of these. So that's kind of interesting. And Arcana Heart looks good. I'll get a taste of that when the characters come out in cross-tag battle, I guess. But it looks like it's right up my alley. I don't know. Not really seeing much else that calls out to me that strongly, but those do. I like how he mentioned the Blaze Blue anime. I mean, that was really notably bad. But yeah, it seems like a pretty good list just looking at the games, even not playing them, because everything here, I mean, it already, for the most part, everything already has a kind of anime aesthetic, and it just looks like it would translate to that pretty damn well. I mean, yeah. Like, it would be just a pretty natural move for just about all of these. And, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think they'd all work. So, there you go. So yeah, the weirdest thing is that honorable mention for Valkyria Chronicles. That just, like, I mean, it's not even like some obscure OVA. It's like there was a 26 episode series based on the game. I mean, if they had said Valkyria Chronicles 4 or something, I'd be like, okay, yeah, they haven't had that. But the first one, just Valkyria Chronicles, that exists. That's a thing. You can go watch it. It's not bad. It's actually a pretty good adaptation. It's not amazing. I think you should still play the game, but there's a better way to play it. But yeah. Yeah. Point is, it had a full adaptation. Like, I don't know. That's just really weird. Though, yeah, I can only think that the audience, I guess, doesn't know that anymore. Because it's been, what now? When did the first Valkyria Chronicles come out in the anime? Sorry, I'm stuck on this. It's one throwaway honorable mention that that came from his viewers, but that just makes it all the more interesting. So yeah, it came out over 10 years ago now, 2008, and then the anime was in 2009, so 10 years ago. So in 10 years, I guess people, or at least a segment of the fan base for Valkyria Chronicles, has forgotten that it was adapted, and that's kind of crazy. And I mean, it's kind of understandable because they keep re-releasing it, the first game. Yeah, there was a Windows port, and then like subsequent versions. Yeah, it went to Windows in 2014, and there was a remastered version in 2016 and a Switch version in 2018. So yeah, there's just the game. So many people have come to it new that don't know it. That's out there, I guess. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. That's oddly the most interesting thing here, I think. Even though, I mean, it was a pretty good list, I think. I would have liked if stuff I had actually played was on there, but yeah, I mean, it, yeah, definitely these looked like they would make good anime, so yeah. Anyway, all I really gotta say, hope you enjoyed the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.